My parents gave my sister my bedroom for Christmas, left me eating cold leftovers alone in the freezing garage, told me to be grateful. So I left, got my own place, and the whole family later found out how badly they'd treated me for years. Hey Reddit, my family thought I'd just take whatever they threw at me. I didn't. Packed my stuff, left, and built my own life. But it got messy before it got better. Let me start from the beginning. My name's Karen. I'm 24. I got back home 2 days before Christmas. I wasn't looking forward to it this year. I'd lived at home for most of the last 5 years. Even while I technically kept a cheap room in a shared place near work, the deal was simple. I helped with bills, groceries, even threw in some cash for the mortgage last year when Dad got laid off for a while. In my head, that meant I wasn't just freeloading. I was part of the household, same as anyone else. My family's not huge. There's Mom, who pretty much runs the place and always has. Dad's quieter, the kind of guy who will fix anything with duct tape before calling a repairman. And then there's Zoe, my younger sister by 2 years. She used to live a couple towns over, had her own apartment and everything. But a few months ago, she broke up with her boyfriend and quit her job around the same time. Ever since, she's been back here, and Mom acts like she's made of glass now. I pulled into the driveway with the same beat-up car I've had since college, saw the Christmas lights blinking on the roof. Dad's pride every December is that light display. Looks like something off a postcard, even if half the bulbs don't work. When I walked in, Mom was at the stove. Zoe was curled up on the couch scrolling her phone, and Dad was fiddling with the thermostat like always. Karen's home, Mom said without turning from the pot she was stirring. No hug, no real hello. Zoe gave me a little wave from the couch, not even looking up fully. I carried my bag upstairs to my room, except it wasn't my room anymore. The door was half open and I saw my stuff, my clothes, books, even my old laptop stacked in garbage bags along the wall. My bed was made up with the floral sheets Mom keeps for guests. What's going on? I asked, standing there with my bag still in hand. Mom came up behind me, all casual, like this wasn't weird at all. Oh, Zoe's going to use your room for a bit, she said. You don't mind, right? It's got better heating and she needs the ensuite in here. I just stared at her. Where am I supposed to sleep? She didn't miss a beat. The garage just for a few days. We set up the air mattress. The garage. Concrete floor barely insulated, and it's been below freezing all week. I asked if maybe the living room made more sense, or even the basement since it at least had carpet. Mom shut that down quick. Zoe needs privacy, she said, like it was the final word. It's only temporary. Don't make this a big thing. Dad came upstairs right then, saw us standing there. It's Christmas, Karen, he said. Let's not start off with arguments. I wasn't arguing. I just didn't love the idea of sleeping next to the water heater while my room went to someone else. Still, I didn't push it. I dropped my bag by the garage door and went out to check the setup. They had the old air mattress from camping trips blown up in the corner between Dad's workbench and the old garage fridge next to the recycling bins. One blanket folded on top. No heater in sight. I stood there for a while wondering when exactly this stopped being my house too. That night, I texted Logan and Andrew, my two oldest friends. We grabbed burgers at this place near the highway, the same one we used to hit in high school after football games. When I told them about the garage thing, Andrew laughed until he saw I wasn't laughing with him. Man, they really love Zoe, huh? He said finally. Always have, Logan added, sipping his soda. Remember the Disneyland trip? She got the hotel bed. You got the floor. I remembered. I was 14. My back remembered, too. We talked about work, about old classmates, about how weird it felt being back in town. But the whole time that image of my room, well, what used to be my room, kept popping back up. The next day, I tried to shake it off. It was Christmas, family time. I helped Mom carry boxes of decorations up from the basement, set up the nativity scene on the mantel like we always do. That evening, we had cocoa by the fire, the whole cozy Christmas picture you'd see on a card. Dad told Zoe how proud he was of her staying strong. She smiled like she believed it. Me? I sat there on the edge of the couch thinking about that air mattress in the garage waiting for me, thinking about how fast home stopped feeling like home. The next morning, I was up early because Mom had a list of things she wanted done before relatives started showing up later in the day. Groceries, wrapping gifts, helping Dad move boxes of decorations back into storage. The usual Christmas chaos. Zoe was still in bed upstairs. The room that used to be mine. Door closed, lights off. I wasn't surprised. Mom handed me a list while stirring pancake batter. Pick up the ham, get more wrapping paper, and grab the good butter from the store. The one in the gold foil. She didn't look up, just kept stirring like I was some assistant instead of her daughter who'd been sleeping next to paint cans and lawn tools. I did the runs, came back, unloaded everything on the counter. Zoe came downstairs around 10 in Hawaii, wearing one of Dad's old hoodies, looking like she hadn't a care in the world. She smiled, kissed Mom on the cheek, and immediately sat at the table scrolling through her phone while I was still hauling grocery bags in from the car. By noon, I was on the floor wrapping gifts with Mom. Tape, scissors, paper, repeat. Zoe wasn't anywhere nearby. At one point, I heard the shower running upstairs. The shower in the ensuite that used to be mine. I asked Mom if Zoe could use the hall bathroom so I could at least shower without knocking on her door while I was here. She's been through a lot, Mom said, lining up a roll of wrapping paper. We're making family sacrifices right now. It's just for the holidays, Karen. Later in the afternoon, some relatives started arriving. Aunt Mel, Uncle Steve, a couple cousins. It was the usual small talk at first. Jobs, weather, traffic on the way here. Then Uncle Steve spotted me carrying more folding chairs in from the garage and grinned. Karen, back home for the holidays, huh? He said. Feels like the old days when you still lived here. Yeah, I said, setting the chairs down. Just here for the week, he nodded. Bet it's weird seeing your room taken over, huh? Yeah, little bit, I said, keeping my voice neutral. He chuckled like it was nothing, but at least this time it didn't come off like he was calling me some kind of failure for living here full time. It was just small talk. Still, it stuck in my head. Later, I was in the kitchen refilling the snack trays when Zoe came in talking on speakerphone. Some friend of hers, I didn't catch the name. The girl asked something about the sleeping situation because Zoe said clear as day, "Oh, Karen doesn't mind the garage. She's fine with it." I looked right at her. She didn't even blink. Just grabbed a soda from the fridge and walked back out. That night, the temperature dropped again. Forecast said it was going to be one of the coldest dish. I asked Mom if we had another space heater somewhere because the garage felt like a freezer. She sighed, like I was asking for something ridiculous. It's a family sacrifice, Karen. It's only a few nights. You'll survive. Dad muttered something about an old heater in the basement, but it was missing a knob and made a rattling noise when it ran. I plugged it in anyway, hoping it would help. Christmas Eve started early, because Mom had a whole checklist of things to get done before dinner. She was moving through the kitchen like a general before a battle, barking out orders, telling Dad to bring chairs up from the basement, telling me to start chopping vegetables, telling Zoe to just relax and stay warm. That part got me. I was standing at the counter slicing carrots while Zoe was sitting on a bar stool sipping coffee like she was a guest at a hotel. "Zoe, honey, could you help with the salad later?" Mom asked her gently. "Sure," Zoe said without looking up from her phone. Meanwhile, I was moving trays in and out of the oven, setting up the extra folding table in the dining room, running back and forth between rooms. Dad was busy checking the turkey, but mostly I was the one doing the heavy lifting. At one point, Mom handed Zoe a single dish of green beans to carry to the table, just one. When she set it down, Mom clapped her hands like Zoe had done something incredible. See? Helping already. I stopped wiping the counter for a second. I had set up the whole table, strung the lights on the porch, carried half the groceries in the day before, and apparently my sister carrying one side dish deserved applause. By the time everything was ready, the dining room smelled amazing. Turkey, mashed potatoes, ham, all of it laid out on the table. The relatives had arrived by then. Aunt Mel, Uncle Steve, 2 cousins, and Grandma. People were chatting, laughing, getting drinks from the fridge. Then I noticed the table. 8 chairs. There were 9 of us. Mom, Dad, me, Zoe, Aunt Mel, Uncle Steve, 2 cousins, and Grandma already settled at the head. 8 chairs, 9 people. Mine was the one missing. Zoe slid into the seat where I always sat. right between Dad and the cousins. Nobody questioned it. Mom was carrying out the turkey when I said, "Hey, there's no seat for me." Mom didn't even look up. We ran out of room. "You can eat after." After? Like I was some stranger waiting for scraps. "Can't we just add a chair?" I asked, keeping my voice even. Mom stopped moving dishes for the first time all day and gave me this look like I just ruined Christmas. "Karen, don't start. We've all been running around since morning, and now you want to rearrange everything." "I'm just asking for a chair," Dad muttered. "We're already tight in here, like it was some huge deal." Uncle Steve laughed from across the table. "Karen's tough. She can wait her turn." A couple cousins snickered. I stood there for a second, hands in my pockets, heat creeping up my neck. It wasn't just the chair. It was the room, the bed, the bathroom, the way nobody even thought about me when they set the table. Mom went back to carving the turkey like the conversation was over. "We'll fix you a plate after," she said. "Don't make this stressful for everyone." So that was that. I spent the next hour standing in the doorway while they ate. Zoe told some story about her old job, everyone laughing like it was the funniest thing ever. Dad was pouring drinks. Mom kept piling food on Zoe's plate like she was feeding royalty. When dinner was over, people pushed their chairs back, rubbing their stomachs, complimenting the food. Mom finally turned to me and said, "We saved you some. It's on the counter." "Some." I went into the kitchen. On the counter sat a plate with cold ham, some mashed potatoes sliding to one side, a roll that had gone hard. Mom carried it out to the garage for me, like she was doing me this huge favor. "Make sure you rinse the plate when you're done," she said, setting it on Dad's workbench. Then, like an afterthought, she added, "You should be grateful we let you stay here at all. You know, grateful for the garage, for the leftovers, for the folding chair that never showed up." She walked back inside before I could say anything. I sat on the air mattress, staring at that plate. I wasn't even hungry anymore. I thought about how I'd been running errands for days, helping set everything up, sleeping out here in the cold while Zoe got my bed, my spot at the table, my parents acting like she was the only one who mattered. The house was loud again. Laughter, clinking dishes, someone turning the TV on. I was out here alone with the smell of paint and motor oil. I didn't make a big scene. I didn't slam doors or yell. I just started packing. My stuff was already in bags from when Zoe took the room. Clothes, laptop, shoes. It didn't take long. I left the plate of food untouched on the workbench. Before I left, I grabbed a pen from Dad's tool drawer and wrote on the back of an old receipt, "I'm safe. I'll text when ready." I left the note on top of the plate so they'd see it. Then I carried my bags to the car. Nobody noticed me leave. Nobody noticed me leave. I started the engine, pulled out of the driveway, and drove away from the blinking Christmas lights on the roof. I didn't have a plan when I left the driveway. I just drove. The snow had been coming down since afternoon, light at first, but now it was covering the roads fast. The temperature had dropped so low that the edges of the windshield were already frosting up. I pulled into the only 24-hour diner in town because I needed to think. I sat there in the corner with my bags stacked beside me, staring out at the snow, coming harder now. The roads back to the shared place were an hour away, most of it through back roads with no streetlights. I wasn't driving that tonight. So I sat there scrolling on my phone while the coffee steamed in front of me. First thing I did was look up a motel. There was one on the highway just outside town, cheap and open all night. I booked it online right there. When I took my phone off, Do Not Disturb, the notifications went crazy. Calls, texts, voicemails, all stacked on top of each other. The first ones were from Mom. "Where are you? Why did you leave? Please call me right now." Zoe had sent one that just said, "Seriously?" I didn't answer any of them. I put the phone back down on the table and finished my coffee while the snow kept piling up outside. The motel was nothing special. The place smelled like bleach and old carpet, but it had heat and a bed that wasn't on a concrete floor. The guy at the front desk didn't even look up from his crossword when I came in with my bags. When I finally sat down on the bed, I just listened. Nothing. No footsteps above me. No TV through the ceiling. No one laughing in the next room. Just the heater humming and the wind outside. My phone was buzzing again. Voicemails this time. The first one was Mom, voice shaking. asking where I was. The second was Dad saying I needed to stop making a scene. By the fourth one, Mom had switched to yelling about me ruining Christmas for everyone. I didn't call back. Instead, I started looking at apartment listings. That shared place near work was fine on paper, but I barely slept there. What I wanted was somewhere that was actually mine. Somewhere nobody could tell me I was lucky just to be allowed there. Christmas morning, I woke up to sunlight coming through the blinds. My phone had even more texts. Mom saying I'd broken her heart. Dad demanding I explain myself. Zoe posting some vague status online about family drama like she wasn't the one in my old bed while I was eating takeout alone. I ignored all of it. The snow plows finally came through late morning, clearing the roads a bit, but by then I had already found a listing for a one-bedroom across town. Old place, but the rent wasn't insane and the heat was included. Even on Christmas Day, the landlord picked up. Older guy who lived a few blocks away and said, if I didn't mind the timing, he could show it that afternoon. I'll be around anyway, he said. The apartment was small but decent. Beige walls, older carpet, kitchen big enough for a table if I ever got one, windows that locked. It felt quiet. The landlord asked about work. I told him where I worked, how long I'd been there. Said I had pay stubs to prove steady income. He nodded like that was enough. Said first month and deposit up front. Rent due on the 1st. I signed the lease at his kitchen table using one of those pens with the fake flower taped to it. On the way back, I stopped at a discount store for some basics. 2 plates, silverware, towels, a blanket, a frying pan. Nothing fancy, just stuff to get started. That evening, I finally texted my parents. Got a place. I'll come by this weekend for the rest of my things. Mom called in less than a minute. I let it ring. She called again and again. When I answered, she went straight to yelling. What do you think you're doing running off like this? Getting some apartment without talking to anyone? I'm fine, I said. You ruined Christmas, Karen, for everyone. Your father's furious. Zoe's been crying all day. Crying, right? You can't just leave because you didn't like the sleeping arrangements, she snapped. That's childish. It wasn't about the garage, I said. It was about everything else. She kept going about family sacrifices and me overreacting. I let her finish before saying, I'll come for my stuff Saturday. I'll text first. She tried again. Something about family sticking together, but I told her I had to go and hung up. A few minutes later, Dad texted, Call your mother back. I didn't. That night in the motel, I ate takeout and looked around at the empty room. Old carpet, peeling paint on the doorframe, heater rattling. It was still better than the garage. Dad showed up at my new apartment 3 days after Christmas. I heard his knock before I even saw him through the peephole. He stood there with his hands shoved in his jacket pockets, so on his shoulders, looking uncomfortable like he wasn't sure this was the right door. When I opened it, his eyes flicked around the place like he expected to see peeling paint and cockroaches. Instead, he saw the second-hand couch I'd picked up cheap, the little kitchen table by the window, the stack of plates on the counter. It wasn't fancy, but it was warm and clean. This isn't bad, he said finally, stepping inside. I nodded. Thanks. Still unpacking. He sat on the edge of the couch, looking around like he was trying to piece together how I'd gotten from the garage to here so fast. Your mom's worried sick, he said. We all are. We were hoping you'd come to the house Sunday, have a family talk, clear the air. I leaned against the counter. I'll think about it. He waited like he expected more, but that was all I said. After a minute, he stood up, patted his pockets like he didn't know what to do with his hands, and left without pushing further. 2 days later, Zoe showed up. I saw her car pull up from the window. She didn't call first, just marched up the stairs and knocked like she owned the place. The moment I opened the door, she started. Do you know how upset Mom was when you didn't come home? On Sunday, we made your favorite meal, Karen. Everyone was waiting for you, and you just vanished. I let her talk. She was wearing the same jacket she'd had in high school, hair pulled back, face red from the cold. When she paused, I said, Why didn't anyone think about including me before I left? She blinked like she didn't get the question. The room, the table, everything, I said. Why did it take me leaving for anyone to notice? She shifted on her feet, arms crossed. Families fight sometimes. You made it worse by walking out. I laughed once, sharp. I made it worse. She looked away. You could have just talked to Mom. Instead, you turned it into this big thing. I shook my head. Forget it. She didn't stay long. When she left, she slammed the door a little harder than needed. That night, I got a message from my cousin Jenna. Hey, just so you know, a lot of us noticed how they treated you at Christmas. Nobody wanted to say anything while it was happening, but yeah, it was messed up. Another cousin, Mark, texted the same thing later. Said he told his parents about the garage, about the missing chair at dinner, about the leftovers. Apparently, word was spreading through the family faster than I expected. Meanwhile, things weren't going great for Zoe. A week after Christmas, she posted online that the job she'd been counting on fell through. 2 days later, her car broke down. I knew about both because Mom texted me asking if I could help out financially like before. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. Me? I have my own bills now. Mom read it but didn't respond. The next day, my aunt commented on one of Zoe's posts about the car trouble, saying, "At least Karen can help. She's always been so responsible." Mom replied under it, "She's on her own now. She left right after Christmas." Then somebody else, one of my cousins, jumped in saying, "Didn't Karen help pay your mortgage last year when Uncle Rick was out of work?" I saw it because Jenna screenshotted the whole thread and sent it to me. Said the family group chat blew up after that. People started asking questions Mom didn't want to answer. By the weekend, I was getting texts from relatives I barely talked to, saying they'd heard what happened at Christmas, that it wasn't right. One even said, "We always wondered why Zoe got different treatment growing up. Thought maybe we imagined it." I didn't reply to most of them. I didn't need to. The story was telling itself now. When Saturday came, I drove to my parents' house to get the rest of my stuff. My car idled in the driveway for a minute before I went in. The Christmas lights were still up, half burned out now, swaying in the wind. Inside, Mom was at the kitchen table, flipping through a catalog like nothing had happened. Dad was in his chair by the window. Zoe wasn't around. "I'm just here for my things," I said. Mom didn't look up. "You barely visit, and now you're taking everything out like you're cutting ties completely." I didn't answer. I went upstairs, grabbed the last boxes from my old closet. Winter coats, a few books, my guitar case. My room smelled like Zoe's perfume now. None of my stuff was left except what I was carrying. Dad came to the doorway while I was packing the last box. "You know your mom just wants the family together," he said. "Funny way of showing it," I said, lifting the box. Back downstairs, Mom finally looked up when I passed through the kitchen. "Family's supposed to help each other, Karen." I set the box by the door. "They are." She opened her mouth like she wanted to say more, then closed it again. I loaded the car, shut the trunk, and left without waiting for a goodbye. The first few weeks in the apartment were quiet in a way that felt strange at first. No one yelling from another room, no footsteps over my head, no TV blasting at midnight. Just the hum of the fridge and the occasional car passing outside. I started bringing in furniture slowly, piece by piece. A secondhand couch from a guy on Facebook Marketplace, a wobbly coffee table that Andrew helped me carry up the stairs, a cheap TV from the pawn shop down the road. None of it matched, but it was mine. Work stayed steady, and without the constant chaos from my parents' house, I actually started sleeping better. I had time for things I'd been putting off, reading, cooking something besides instant noodles, even going to the gym after work. A few weeks in, I realized my back didn't hurt as much. My shoulders weren't tense all the time, and I wasn't living off caffeine just to stay awake at my desk. Lena from work came by one evening after we grabbed coffee. She wanted to see the place after hearing bits of the Christmas story. "This is it," I said, unlocking the door and flicking on the lights. She stepped inside and looked around like she was trying to match the mental picture she had to what was in front of her. "You weren't kidding. They really made you sleep in the garage?" "Air mattress next to the water heater," I said, tossing my keys on the counter. She shook her head. "That's insane. And they kept the bedroom for Zoe?" "Yeah." "Wow." She didn't say much after that, just looked around again, like she couldn't figure out how someone got treated like that in their own house. A few days later, I adopted a dog from the shelter, a medium-sized mutt with a spotted coat and ears that didn't quite match. They called him Rusty. He was skittish at first, but warmed up quick once he realized I wasn't going to yell or shove him off the couch. Having Rusty around changed the feel of the place completely. Mornings started with quick walks before work. Evenings ended with him curled up on the blanket while I ate dinner on the couch. Logan and Andrew started coming by on weekends. We set up an old console on the TV stand and played games, ordered pizza, laughed about stupid things we hadn't talked about since high school. One night, Andrew leaned back in his chair and said, "Man, this feels like college again, except better because we don't have exams or parents yelling." He wasn't wrong. Then Zoe called about the car. She didn't start with small talk, just jumped right in. "Karen, the mechanic says it's going to be $800 to fix my car. I don't have it. Can you help?" I was sitting at the table eating dinner, Rusty at my feet. "I can't," I said. "I've got rent, bills, and I just moved in here. I don't have extra like that." There was a pause on the line. Then her voice cracked. "Please, I need the car to get to interviews. Mom and Dad don't have it right now either. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious." I stayed quiet for a moment, then said, "I'm sorry, Zoe. I really can't." Her tone shifted instantly. "Unbelievable. After everything this family's done for you, you can't help with one thing." I set my fork down. "Done for me? You mean like the garage?" She ignored that. "You're making decent money. You're just being selfish." "I paid bills for years, Zoe. I helped with the mortgage when Dad was out of work. I'm not doing this anymore." She let out this sharp laugh that didn't sound like her. "Wow, you think you're so independent now, huh? Because you got a little apartment and a dog?" I didn't raise my voice. "I think I'm done being treated like the backup plan." She hung up after that. No goodbye, nothing. Just the click and the deadline. A few days later, I drove out to the old apartment, packed up the rest of my stuff from the room I'd been renting, and told my roommates I was ending the lease early. They understood. One of them already had a cousin looking for a place, so it worked out fine. By that weekend, everything I owned was in the new apartment, and the shared place was officially behind me. One Saturday, Logan and Andrew helped me carry up a small desk I bought secondhand. We set it by the window so I had a spot for my laptop instead of balancing it on the coffee table. "This place is coming together," Andrew said, setting the last box down. "Slowly," I said. "But it feels good." And it did. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for someone to knock on my door asking for something or telling me to move my stuff, or blaming me for whatever was going wrong in the house that week. Word must have gotten back to my parents because the guilt text started after that. Mom sent one saying, "The family missed you at Sunday dinner." Dad wrote a single line, "Your mother's been sad lately." I didn't answer right away. I read the messages, then put the phone back down and went back to what I was doing. Because for once, the quiet in my apartment felt better than anything waiting for me at that house. By early spring, things had settled into a routine. Work, gym, evenings with Rusty, weekends with Logan and Andrew. I wasn't hearing much from my parents anymore. They sent the occasional text, short ones like, "Hope you're well," or "Your mother says hi." But nothing about Christmas, nothing about me moving out, nothing about money. Word about what happened kept spreading through the extended family, though. Jenna told me people were still talking about it at a cousin's birthday party in March. Apparently, some relatives asked my parents straight up if it was true I'd been left eating cold food in the garage while everyone else had Christmas dinner together. Mom brushed it off. Dad said I was making things sound worse than they were, but nobody seemed convinced. Zoe stayed mostly quiet online after the car situation, but in April, she texted me out of nowhere. "Do you think you'll come to any family things this year?" I told her I didn't know. Then in May, Aunt Mel called me herself. "We're having a big cookout in a few weeks," she said. "Burgers, potato salad, the usual. Whole family's coming. You should too." I hesitated, but she added, "It might be good to clear the air. And you shouldn't feel like you can't show up because of Christmas. That wasn't on you." So, I said yes. By the time the cookout rolled around, it felt like everyone knew something was going to happen. It was late spring when I finally pulled up to Aunt Mel's place. Cars lined the street. Kids were running through sprinklers in the yard. Uncles were arguing over who burned the burgers. Music was playing from a speaker in the corner. I spotted Mom and Dad sitting at one of the folding tables under the big oak tree. Zoe was talking to a cousin near the grill. I grabbed a soda from the cooler and nodded at a few people as I walked over. Conversations dipped for a second when I got closer. Then Aunt Mel called out, "Karen, haven't seen you since the holidays. Thought you disappeared." Been busy, I said. Cousin Mark leaned back in his chair. So, what really happened at Christmas? We all heard different stories. Before I could answer, Mom said, "We thought Karen wouldn't mind the garage for a couple nights. With Zoe moving back, space was tight. That shut the whole table up." "You made her sleep in the garage?" Aunt Mel asked slowly, like she couldn't believe it. "It wasn't like that," Mom said quickly. "It was temporary." Uncle Steve frowned. "I was there Christmas Eve. She didn't even have a seat at the table. Marie, what was that about?" Mom shifted in her chair. "We ran out of space. She could have eaten after. It wasn't a big deal." Zoe must have felt the eyes on her because she blurted out, "Mom and Dad told me she wouldn't care about giving up the room, that she was fine with it." The silence after that was heavy. Even the kids quieted down. I didn't say anything. I just sipped my soda while the relatives looked at my parents like they'd grown two heads. Then Cousin Mark spoke up. "Hold on. Wasn't Karen the one helping with the mortgage? And you guys didn't give her a room at Christmas?" Mom's face went red. Dad cleared his throat like he wanted to change the subject, but nobody let him. Aunt Mel shook her head. "You can't treat one kid like free labor and the other like royalty. That's not right." Nobody defended them. Not this time. After that, conversations started breaking off into smaller groups, but I kept hearing bits and pieces. Relatives asking each other if they knew. Some saying they always wondered why I got different treatment. The story was out now, and my parents couldn't take it back. Mom and Dad left early, didn't even finish their food. 2 days later, I got the first text from Mom. "Sorry you felt that way about Christmas. We didn't mean to hurt you." I read it twice. "Sorry you felt that way. Not sorry for what they did." I replied, "No more guilt trips. No more money requests. Respect goes both ways, or I stay out of it." She didn't answer. A week later, Dad sent a short message. "Can we move past this?" I didn't reply right away. I was done being the first one to bend. Zoe reached out a month later. Different tone completely. "Can we talk?" she asked when I picked up. "About what happened at Christmas. Everything." She paused. "I should have said something when Mom and Dad were pushing you out. I didn't because it was easier not to fight with them. But it was wrong. I'm sorry." I leaned back in my chair, looking out the window where Rusty was asleep on the patio. "Took you a while," I said finally. "I know," she said, "but I mean it." "But..." She sounded like she did, so I told her it was fine. I didn't forget. But I wasn't carrying it around anymore either. By December, things looked different. I had the apartment fully set up now. A real couch that didn't sag, a kitchen table with actual chairs, even a fake tree in the corner with lights strung up. I invited Logan, Andrew, a couple coworkers, and some cousins who'd stuck by me through the whole thing. Zoe texted out asking if she could come too. I told her yes, but made it clear Mom and Dad weren't invited this year. Christmas Eve came and the apartment was full of noise, laughter, music, Rusty trotting between people hoping for dropped snacks. Zoe showed up with a store-bought pie and set it on the counter. "Thanks for inviting me," she said, handing me the pie server too. "Thanks for coming," I said. We ate together at the table. Every single person with a seat this time, nobody left out. Nobody eating cold food in another room. At one point, Andrew raised his glass of soda and said, "To Karen, for proving you can start over and actually make it better." People laughed, clinked glasses, kept eating. After everyone left, I stood by the window looking at the snow starting to fall again. Last year, I'd been sleeping on an air mattress in a freezing garage. This year, I was here in my own place with people who actually wanted me around. I didn't win by arguing louder or sending longer texts. I won by walking away, building something better, and letting the rest collapse on its own. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like enough. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button.